Welcome to Bash You Live. There's our first glitch that
There we go.
I guess we were expecting that.
I had a week off. Sorry, guys.
Good to have you back with us, Justin.
Yep.
Uh, our own Jocelyn is home, not feeling too well today. I know that's running around the whole country and the world, I think, right now. So,
Seriously.
really, I know it's been through our house, and geez, everybody here has gotten COVID this year, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Hope you feel better soon, Josh. And good to have you back, Justin, with us.
Good to be back.
We are, man, we got one of our friends that, man, we love to have him on the show. Ronnie Moore from Bassmasters is going to be here with us today. We're going to be talking about, man, the Bassmaster schedules this year. What are the techniques that are going to be prevalent to try to win these tournaments in the upcoming season? A lot of forward-facing sonar talk, right? That won a lot last year. Will that be the case this year? We're going to see some shallow water fishing going on. We got a whole new crop of serious anglers. The new EQ qualifiers are spectacular. So really looking forward to diving in.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I'm really excited about this preview because the Bassmaster schedule this year lays out a little bit differently than we've seen in the past few years. We have Texas events early in the year, where the last few years we've seen the Florida events, and we're going to get to watch some Florida fishing going on this year later into the year, that's going to be super cool. I mean, we haven't seen that in quite some time, so things are shaking up a little bit this year, and we're going to do our best to guess on how it's going to go down, but they're fish, so we're speculating.
Yeah, I love that. The starting out in Texas, well, of course, it could go wrong like it did for us last year, right?
Ice storms.
Yeah, we had ice storms in January, right?
Yep.
And we've seen some real nasty weather. Just the way Texas is positioned, man. That Gulf Stream comes down and brings that cold Canadian air. Or jet stream, whatever that thing's called, and dips down deep into that part of the country, can bring some really nasty weather. As a matter of fact, one of the coldest tournaments I ever fished was in Austin, Lake Travis. It was unbelievable. The ramps were freezing up, just unbelievably cold. So we could see that down there.
I hope not.
I hope not too.
It'll be interesting, right? How are you going to survive that?
Yeah, how will we survive? Justin and I will be there. How are we going to survive?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? We'll probably be driving a 2-door coupe, little tiny car, and if we get an ice storm, maybe a little bit problematic.
Oh man,
we'll have to get you guys some expedition weight Bass U thermals.
Yeah.
to wear for that one. Yeah, from that perspective, all right, I got you. But how about the other perspective, right? All the big ones bite in that nasty weather, and the double-digit bass get caught in Texas when it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So, and with everybody becoming so proficient with fishing offshore, even that time of year especially, and we could see some giants coming in.
Sure
in
could.
Tournaments.
Yep. Especially Toledo Bend to start, and Lake Fork number 2. It's going to be some big weights starting off the year probably. So
yes, sir. So looking forward. We'll dive in with the man on the inside, Ronnie Moore, here shortly. Right. We've got like and share the feed. We've got prizes. Do you have the prizes set up for us, Justin?
I got them. Yeah, today for the like and share, we're giving away some Cortland line, 2 boxes of line, Cortland line master braid. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely want to check it out. So
25% off for all of our subscribers. Go check it out.
Yep. And if you like and share today's feed, you're going to be entered in for a chance to win some. And then today for the grand prize, which will be a trivia question based on today's show. And we will ask the question in the message board. So you got to be dialed in, sharpen your pencils. Let's get this thing rolling here. For that grand prize, we're going to be giving away Cortland line and some Rapala lures with that as well. So, yep, stay locked in. We're going to bring in a question towards the end of the show, and we'll be giving that stuff away.
We getting ready to go, guys. It's 4 weeks away to Texas. No, to our first event.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's where we're going to be in
Anderson,
South Carolina. I can't believe it. It's like
time's flying.
Oh my goodness. It's right. It seems like right as soon as we get through Christmas, it's like, bam, we're traveling and we're going to be all over the place. And we look forward to seeing all you guys. We started out at Anderson. Then we were in Texas. Then we're in Shreveport, and we wrap it up this year down in Alabama. So make sure you guys get tickets. We have a really cool stocking stuffer promotion going on right now for you guys that are coming to the class. Go get your tickets now. Register now. And it's full of crankbaits, Rapala, waterwood, missile. It's just a cool little deal, especially if you're giving it for a gift. What a cool thing that somebody could get under the tree. A couple tickets to the Bash University class and a whole bunch of lures. That's always a fun thing to get. So check that out. Go over to thebashuniversity.com. Get your tickets, and we'll see you in class. And of course, we have a great. We have a really interesting promotion that's going on right now. If you can't make it to class, what a cool gift this is too. A subscription to Bash U, Justin. It's really a cool promotion.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, if you can't make it to the classes and want to watch some of the seminars we record there and all the other good stuff we have coming, we got a $99 annual deal, and in return for that, you are getting a mystery box with $60 or more value of baits in there. It's going to be a surprise for you. It's like a little Christmas present of some awesome lures, some apparel. Who knows what you're going to get? And you also get a chance at a golden ticket if you sign up during that event. And that's going to be a $250 value that you're getting on top of that.
Wow.
And of course, we're giving away a golden ticket to one of our current subscribers too. So you guys aren't missing out. If you're already subscribed, you get a chance at a pretty cool golden ticket box. So
that's cool.
Should be exciting. Pretty fun.
Yeah, somebody's going to get it. What a neat deal. And the boxes that we give away are full of all great top quality, top level products and baits that we use and recommend and work with here at Bash U. So it's all good stuff. Promise you that. But what a neat deal. The golden ticket. We've not done a promotion like this before. So guys, check it out and get yourself subscribed. It's a great time to do it. Man, we're going to be filming some really important educational stuff that's really going to help everybody this year. And as we always continue to do, but Brandon Lester's going to be with us again this year in Anderson. Excited about that. But this week, he teaches about offshore at Bash U.
Yeah, he does. It's an offshore deep dive with Brandon Lester. And man, I'll get into the seminar, but Brandon is an excellent instructor. He really has a way of conveying his message, and he breaks down the offshore approach to his fishing. Pretty unique. He doesn't necessarily only fish deep when he's fishing offshore. Offshore can mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean it essentially means you're just not on the bank, and that can be anywhere from 4 foot all the way down to 40 foot and everywhere in between. And the approach that he takes to each one of those water columns and different depths is super, super unique. And like I said, he's a great instructor, so you definitely want to check that out. And then
not to mention a blue trophy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a champion. He's a Bassmaster Elite Series winner. He's a Bassmaster Opens winner. He just knows how to catch him. He really, really does. He's got an impressive stat line. And this week's on-water release is Mike Iaconelli, top 3 soft baits for fall and early winter. And depending on where you are in the country, it depends on, kind of where you are in the seasonal transition of things. But great seminar, catches a big one in this seminar.
Awesome seminar.
Talking about a certified big one. And
a giant.
Yeah. We know that when, Mike hooks up, oftentimes it is a giant. This one was a certified giant. So, definitely check that out. The top 3 baits for fall fishing. He really emphasizes that just because in the fall you're throwing your jerk bait, you're throwing your spinner baits, your chatter baits, all that stuff, don't forget about a soft plastic, because there's times where it's the king.
We're seeing it around here right now. Typically around in our neck of the woods, it's all metal and jerk baits, blades, and we're seeing the soft plastics play even right now. We had a little warming trend, which I think was the reason. But we're hearing about a lot of soft plastics being effective in our body's water. So great stuff by one of the Hall of Famer and certainly one of the greatest teachers in the sport of fishing. So awesome. Definitely got to check that out. Take advantage of our new offer. Like and share the feed. We've got Ronnie Moore coming in. We're going to be talking about the elites, the opens, techniques, fantasy, all kinds of great stuff. What do you got, Justin?
Just want to give a shout out to some of our subscribers tuning in. Chuck Fish, Wolf of Walmart, of course, Dan Allen, Byrne, Nick Mayberry. Just want to give a shout out to those guys for tuning in.
It's great to have you guys with us as always. And we're going to be right back with Ronnie Moore right after this.
Aquaview, the leader in underwater viewing technology. Find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. Aquaview. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love catching fish and rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Cortland Line Master Braid, America's premium super braided fishing line. Manufactured in our Cortland, New York facility and constructed from the highest quality Spectra fibers available. Cortland Line Company, made in America since 1915.
I have to have the best eyewear.
My eyes are essential to doing my job.
It's the highest quality lens that I've ever used.
Top of the line performance in these glasses.
But they're priced for absolutely everyone. The everyday angler can afford them.
As a touring professional pro, if I can depend on them, I know the weekend angler can as well. Hobie eyewear, built for the pros.
Priced for everyone.
Welcome back, guys. Good to have you with us. Really excited about today's show. I love it. We have them on every year this time of year and sometimes more, talking about what's going on in the tournament trail in the Bassmasters world. And it's been a great friend to us here at Bass U, and awful glad to have him here with us right now. Mr. Ronnie Moore from the Bassmasters. How are you doing, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? How are you today?
Oh,
we're doing good,
Can
man.
you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yep, we
Okay,
got
good.
you. We got you.
Pete did a pump fake on me. I was worried he was falling out of the boat or something.
Ronnie, what have you done to my career? You have I cannot go. I can't. There's not a week that goes by that does not get posted to me, or somebody brings it up, or somebody calls me out on it. It's like every single week the rest of my life, I think.
Well, I think there's a couple goals when you get into the sport of bass fishing that everybody wants to achieve at some point, and that is to win a tournament, go to the Bassmaster Classic, and be remembered forever. And you have now done all three, so you are in step.
That's true.
God.
Yeah, Pete.
All right. Well, let's announce the retirement. I guess I might be done.
No, you got plenty more in you. I saw how quickly you got back in the boat. You're perfectly good to go, I promise. And if you're not fishing on the water, you still have a long time in this career for teaching people with Bass U, no doubt.
Well, I love it, to be honest with you. It's just I've stepped down from the top tier tours, but man, I just love competing. It's just something about the tournaments that just brings the best out in you, in me. I just, I love that part. I love the strategy. I love, going to these bodies of water, some that are new, some that I love and been fishing for years. I fell in love with it a long time ago when I was just a kid, and I think I'm going to, I don't know if I can do it as long as Rick Clunn's doing it, but I think I'm going to keep doing it for a while.
Well, I can completely agree with that, that aspect of competition. And I always tell people, I love bass fishing, but I didn't grow up fishing just for fun. Every single day that I got in the boat with my dad was in preparation for a tournament. It was some kind of competition. That was the aspect that we developed. So I've never really just gone fishing for fun. It's always with the goal of figuring something out in hopes of putting it into application for tournament days. So it's weird, as a 30-year-old in my 10th year, covering the sport with Bassmaster, that I haven't fished in quite a while for that reason. I don't get to fish tournaments anymore. I realize that that's maybe, in the past, maybe in the future, who knows, but it's hard to go and leave your family or leave the work that's to be done covering the sport to just go fish sometimes for fun with no purpose. I'm such a purpose-driven person that, man, tournaments, there's nothing like it. There's no way to emulate the stress of tournament day and the strategy preparation if you're trying to emulate it just for fun. At the end of the day, it is just for fun. But tournaments, man, I love the competition aspect.
Me too. There's some. It's one of the few things where I get to level 10 as a person. You know what I mean? I'm engaged. Whether you're catching that big fish that you need, at that moment, or whether you're having to recover from falling in the lake. I mean. It's
almost still win that tournament. You're still right there the whole day.
That's right. It's just, you're like, you got to overcome those obstacles. You're driven. It's a blast. I love doing it. And, so I'm going to keep doing it. And I know, the tournament trails they're announced. We're getting ready to roll. There's some, we're going to dive into the tournaments because I love to pick your brain about what we think is going to go down. But we're coming into the new year. It's all forward-facing sonar was a big deal last year. It's probably going to be a big deal this year. I'm wondering about the production side of things. We saw some really cool stuff at the Classic where we had the Humminbird screen shots going on. I'm curious as to what's going to happen this year. Are we going to see more of that?
We just got done with our weekly meeting at the Bassmaster Studios here in Little Rock, and that was a topic of conversation. Is what do we need for the 2024 season to be prepared? For the crew that's on site versus the crew that's in studio. One thing that I feel, and I told Chase Anderson this, I've told Mike McInnes this. It's something that I grew up with bass. No matter where the anglers are, if the quote unquote best anglers in the world are fishing other tournament trails like people thought a few years ago, or if it's where they are now, no matter where the top level, the best pros are, the thing that Bassmaster's always done better than the rest is teaching. And so I said, the way we need to use some of these things, we've transitioned in a competition, it seems, the last few years of entertainment. We got to have the biggest fish, the most fish. We got to show it off. These anglers are good for a reason. Let's support them and show them off in that aspect. And it was always bigger weights, more fish. How exciting can it be? But the core root of what made Bassmaster television great in the heyday and the tournaments top notch above the rest was the teaching aspects. And so utilizing new technology, utilizing the screen knowledge with lake maps, utilizing interviews with anglers to get insights on the water, all of those things combined to teaching. And I think that if we get back, no matter what anyone else does in the sport of bass fishing, if we here in the Bassmaster studios get back to the teaching aspect of it exclusively, obviously the entertainment will come, and that's always enjoyable, and we want to captivate viewers, especially because back in the day we would package 4 days of tournament fishing into a 45-minute show. So it was going to be action packed no matter what, because you had limited time, so you showed off the best catches at the best moments. We now know with 7 hours of live every single day for 4 days that some things can be redundant. Seeing forward-facing sonar all the time in everybody's boat, it seems like the end of the world. That's the only we're seeing, but that's just a small sample of a specific tournament or a specific region of the country or highlighting that. But if you look at everyone overall, there's something to be learned from. You know, at Lay Lake, for example, seeing Brandon Polnick max as an area in the back of beeswax, using 360, utilizing his eyes. You go see Jason Christie, utilizing his shallow water ability, also keeping his eyes out there for possible runners. And Will Davis using his local knowledge at the dam, using areas that he saved to the final day, all those different things. But then you have guys like Jay Shakurit and Bob Downey, who did really well, Justin Atkins, all of those guys with forward-facing sonar at the south end of the lake. You've got all kinds of guys doing a shad spawn. So I think that forward-facing sonar is here to stay for the most part. We just have to show a better way of teaching, because for entertainment value, maybe that's where it lacks. And so I think that it'll be mixed in more. To answer your question somewhat, there's no guarantees, because the last time I was on here, I told you guys we'd be live for 5 opens, and we were live for 3. But now we're live for 9, and I can say that for sure, guarantee we made plans to do 9, for next year, and so all the opens are live. So who knows what forward-facing sonar? I know the folks here behind the scenes of live are all taking things into consideration on how to make it better for the viewers, but also how to teach the viewers, not to be afraid of technology or that, but to teach them.
I love that. And I love that addition on the opens. That's outstanding.
Big news.
Yeah. And I noticed this, and I love this about the broadcast that you guys do. You show the general locations where the guys are, you show, there's a struggle that's going on, right? Where decisions are having to be made, and they're living and dying in these moments. And some of them are successful, some of them aren't. I love that part. Showing that part of the tournament is for me, it's my favorite part, watching that struggle, watching the guys succeed and fail. So I applaud that strategy that you're talking about, Ronnie. I agree with that 100%.
I think that one thing I just think off the top of my head of Lake St. Clair, St. Clair, Champlain, St. Lawrence were dominated by forward-facing sonar, not only on the water, but on the chat boards, FaceTimes, DMs, all of the YouTube, getting the clicks and all that stuff on everyone's opinion on it. So it was dominated by forward-facing sonar. But the thing that I and Tommy Sanders sitting, on the opposite end of the studio over here from me, we're making, just so you know, we've done this the last few years. We've put 14 additional TV shows onto Fox Sports 1 January and February before the season kickoff. And so we're rolling out those TV shows, and we're making them like they used to be, where it's a whole tournament encased in a show. And you get to see some of these ebbs and flows of characters who rose up. It's not just a piece about the winner. And I say all that because it makes me think of St. Clair when it was dominated by forward-facing sonar, but how amazing Anchor Bay was with all of the biomass, all the bait fish, so many smallmouth. And I remember, because Tommy was at another event, but I was here with Davey and Such. I asked Mark Zona this question. I said, do you think they could cannibalize each other in there? And we weren't on the same page, because he thought, like, can they fish the spot out? No more smallmouth there. That wasn't the case, but more so that 9 of the top 10 are all battling within eyesight of each other, and they're divvying up these fish. And at some point it's gonna slack off and allow somebody like Joey Cifuentes, who's going to the opposite of the lake by himself and getting 6 or 7 bites, and he wins doing that instead of fishing the area where a bunch are. So like you said, that battle of decisions, you could have just had a terrible practice, park yourself in Anchor Bay, and you're in the tournament. Or you could have taken 4 or 5 bites in practice on the other end in the Canadian side of St. Clair and used them. And if I can get a limit, it might be 22 to 25 pounds. And that's what Joey did to win. And so I think it's still a struggle. Like, I don't know. I don't want to make this forward-facing sonar dominant, but like, there's so much to be learned. And as someone who loves being in the dirt with a chatterbait and a buzzbait and doesn't have forward-facing sonar on my boat, even if I was going every weekend, I enjoy seeing it because it's a different way of learning. It's more efficient. We'd be looking at these same guys using 2D sonar and being less efficient. We would see them take a whole lot longer between fish catches. Now we got guys who are motivated and zoned in on not even pitching to a mark that they think is a 3-pounder, because that mark over there, it might be a 5 and they think it is. So it's a different way, and it's not just easy peasy. I saw 300 fish today and I got 9 to bite. I just have 20 of them pounds because I get to be selective, but also they all don't bite. And so teaching that, showing that, I think that's on the docket more for next year for sure. But I also obviously do hope other patterns derive out of these tournaments that we can see. Some underdogs, as some other folks would probably refer to them now, just fishing.
I just want to jump in here because towards the end of the year last year, Ron, like there was a lot of conversations like, oh, the whole season is nothing but forward facing sonar. It was boring. Like anybody who was saying that didn't watch a lot of the early season tournaments or didn't watch the tournaments in the middle of the year.
Recency bias.
Exactly. Like they're only remembering what was, a week ago or a month ago. They don't remember watching Steve Kennedy crack him on a frog on Okeechobee. Like they don't remember Ike crushing them up shallow at Santee, or it's like they're still a mix, and like you can't please everybody. Just gonna throw it out there.
Oh no, and I think that's. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say we've been watching this for years. You said it, Ronnie. Like we've been watching them being less efficient with 2D sonar for years. Like anytime you're in a smallmouth tournament, anytime you're in a ledge tournament, anytime that's going on, you're going to get that same view, that same perspective of where you're just kind of looking at the back of an angler. I don't think that much has changed, You
guys are northern guys. You can remember it, but I think other than KVD on a spy bait and Fighter at St. Clair on a big plug, or a bigger plug, every other smallmouth event's the same thing. It's drop shotting 2D. Of course, maybe they spoke to the camera more. Maybe they were more upright because they dropped it down, hoping that something swam into their cone. Not, I'm going to go find where they swam to. So it's all just different. I don't want to harp on it like I'm a lover of it. No one in the sport watches more forward-facing sonar with anglers with their backs to the camera than the people. It's Tommy over there, me here. Like we watch it. We don't get royalties for seeing them use it. We have to live as well. Just the announcers don't love calling a 3-0 game between the Vikings and the Raiders, but they live through it. You got to deal with that. So it's just a different changing of the guards. And along the lines of this is something I've typed up a post and backspaced it, and I've put an Instagram story about to press send, and I delete it just because I don't know how to phrase it without feeling like I'm offending people. But if I remember, and Ike's a huge proponent of this, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I started with bass, when I was a college angler, when I was getting into the sport over the last maybe 6 years ago and the decade before that, Everyone was talking about let's grow sport. Let's get younger people involved. They're the next generation. They are the future of the sport. The more high school anglers, the more college anglers that we can get, the bigger that we get that generation into fishing, the better our sport will be. And those same exact people 5 or 6 years later are now the ones demeaning 17 to 22-year-old kids for having success on the water because they are embracing the technology that they are raised in and learning about. And I feel how silly we are as a sport, if I can say that, and on a kind of a rant tangent, that the same people who are growing the sport are now mad that it's grown and moved away from their skill set. There are some obviously concerns about conservation. That's why we developed the forward-facing committee with Bass to evaluate all aspects of it. But I just want us, for the people who trust Bass, I've thought about this a whole bunch. Let's take an inward look at ourselves as we wanted to grow the sport and get more people involved. There's more people fishing in bass fishing tournaments these days than there were 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And with that will come change. So now all those people we prayed for to be in the sport that are now 18 to 24-year-olds are the ones quickly breaking the learning curve and they're the ones winning tournaments with new technology that they were presented with when they came into the sport. So let's just think about that. It's a good thing that we have so many people fishing in the sport, but it is difficult to swallow that it's changing.
Go, Ronnie Moore. I like it. I'll get up on your soapbox. I'm with you. I'm an advocate of it. And I tell you what is making me a big advocate, a stronger advocate, is working with the greatest anglers in the world at our Bass U seminars, because we're teaching this concept. We're teaching how to use it. At first, everybody's like, "Oh, you just turn it on, you see a fish, you throw it there and catch it." Well, guess what?
No, not the case.
It's extremely advanced and highly technical about the baits that you can trigger them with. We're seeing the EQ guys with the 3/4 ounce jig. You're supposed to be using a finesse rod to trigger these blips that you're seeing, and they're doing it with power baits, figuring out all types of new and different strategies to catch these fish. So there's a ton to it. It's highly interesting and technical, and I applaud you for telling us how it is.
Well, just it's my heart of hearts. I don't want to act like I get more and more disappointed daily by when I open up social media for fishing, but it is mind blowing how much it's changed over the last few years and how the lack of change. I don't want the NFL to go back to leather helmets. I don't want the NBA players wearing Converse high tops anymore. If they can have better shoes to jump higher and not break their ankle as much, I would love that. And so it's everything advances. There is a limit, but there is a balance of what can the consumers purchase and get involved with without it feeling like you need 5 units. You don't need 5 units. The best in the world that are competing for a living for this have to have more than the regular consumer would, because this is what they do for a living. This isn't what they do on the weekend. This is what they do for a living. So I'm not in the gym shooting 1,000 shots today, training my body and cryotherapy like LeBron James does. He is the best at what they do, and he has to do that. Same thing with these bass fishermen. But speaking of Toledo Bend and Lake Fork, we can talk about schedule or whatever.
Well, I know we're laboring on this, and we talked about it a lot.
You're fine. I don't want it to be consumed with this, but it's the elephant in the room.
Well, the one that's new and is the shallow water nature of the technology that is kind of not being talked about very much. It's on the hush hush, the down low. Guys are using it in 6 inches, 12 inches of water, figuring out different strategies and techniques to be effective up in the dirt. I mean, this is, well, might be news to some people listening to the show right now, but it's not just a deep water technique. Have you been seeing guys do that on the elites?
We got to see Steve Kennedy when he was busting their butt on a frog at Okeechobee, use the Lowrance active target, perspective mode, where it's just a different view of it, of forward-facing sonar, and he's able to see a 1.5 pound, 2 pounder swim by out in front of his boat, and He pitched over there, and I think he caught that fish. Like, how crazy is that? And that's somebody like Steve Kennedy who maybe isn't like heavily invested in learning this technology. He would rather just go throw a swim bait everywhere, which that works a lot of times for him. But you see that, and you learn about fish tendencies, you learn about location, movements. I think there's and I have it typed right here in the chat. I already had typed one message privately to the Bass crew on the streaming platform, but I typed it here so I wouldn't forget. You guys were talking about Brandon Lester being one of your great pro seminar anglers for the next season and how he approaches fishing shallow but offshore. We saw him utilizing his Lowrance active target, offshore at Pickwick, but in 4 to 6 feet of water with schools of fish that were never ending. They were everlasting. It seemed like every catch he could do it, he had to switch up from a big crankbait to a Nico rig. He worked in a hair jig on a little bit deeper places. There's a lot of different things that he mixed in there. And I think that's also the thing that's opening it up. Yes, forward-facing sonar may be limiting some of our tackle time, and it seems like we're just signing up jig heads and minnow baits. But there's a lot of, especially with largemouth involved, there's a lot of other techniques that trial and error. I got to get this school of fish to bite. I got to figure out what they are before I move on. And I think that there is a little bit of mystery in the game taken out. And the mystery used to be, are there fish on this spot? Let me go fish it and see. Now the mystery is, there's fish there. Are they correct? Are they the size that I need to win? Because everything's getting bigger and better. The higher the weights they're getting, your cut weights on lakes are going up, where you're at risk with a normal bag of getting cut or a good bag getting cut these days. So that shallow water, we see that come into play, no doubt. I think watching Brandon Polnick break down 360 in 5 feet of water or less, like was at Lay Lake, is absolutely crazy. In the Lay Lake show that I cut, you could see the brim beds on the 360. He goes over there and pitches to it and catches one. And so it's not only seeing bass and where they're related to nothing out in the middle of nothing, how they're related to brush, brim beds, the time of day when they decide to pull up and feed on those brim beds, the time of day when they sit off the edge and wait. I think the way bass relate around rocks, I think there's a lot to be learned about that for sure. And so it's interesting. But like you guys said, Rivette wins, Palmer wins, Cifuentes wins on largemouth, and we think the sky, but 6 to 8 of the other top 10 in those events were doing it the pure way, as people say online, by just fishing. So
well,
we see that makes sense still.
Yeah, it's interesting there. It's definitely a shallow water movement. Guys are learning that. I want to applaud the Bassmaster camera crew for being pirates and getting in there on the baits that the guys are trying to hide. I love that. I love that part.
I got to clear Kiyoya Fujita's name, by the way. Kiyoya was dubbed as the guy hiding his baits. There's a true language barrier compared to maybe Taku, who has learned English much better. But Kiyoya, looking at interviews, he did a Tackle Tip Tuesday with us after he won Champlain, that we were able to use his winning baits. A couple things I've learned about him. He does want to speak for himself. He doesn't want a translator to misinterpret. He wants to represent himself well, which is very admirable. You could always take the easy way out and just, like say some stuff to him. So to him, I have SU instructor Brian Schmidt calling me right now. Probably going to tell me about a nice fish that he caught. I'll have to call him later. But Kiyoya, in that Lake Murray tournament, when he was hiding the baits from us, we actually had a lost interview, and I hate to throw our team under this. We had a lost interview that when I look back at the Lake Murray tournament drive down, I plugged it up. He went through and talked about the Sakamata shad, even though it wasn't a sponsored bait. And he talked about them. So we were looking, thinking he was hiding them, but he actually talked about them for us. So Kiyoya, Ronnie Moore here from Bass is clearing your record. You are a lot better guy than everyone perceived you to be. You're a great young angler. Very forthcoming.
All right. Well, good. Then maybe go into his rod lockers. Let's get the production crew in there and check it out. What's going on in there?
Exactly.
But hey, it's a great schedule. I like the schedule this year. The elites are typically a Florida start. We're starting in Texas. And it's going to be man, if the weather turns nasty, the fish get big when that happens. Toledo Bend coming out of the gate swinging, it looks pretty good to me.
Man, it really could be something that we saw. We might not have familiarity with Toledo Bend for the Bassmaster Elite Series, but you as an opens angler knows that we've gone to Toledo early in the year at times. The College Series has gone to Toledo early in the year in that late January to early February. So just a few weeks later than that for the Elite Series, you could have that deep timber, or not even deep. The timber's in deep water, but the fish may not be related in deep water. They could be suspending. We saw Cody Huff do that in back-to-back weeks. He won a college event with his jig and spoon, in the timber at Toledo, and then turned around the next week and won the Toyota Series event there. So we could see that come into play. And Pete, down in that area, like if it gets warm, they could be on bed. They could be close. They could be, you just don't know with and that. And one big thing, water level. If the water level comes up, even if it's cold, those fish will do nothing but want to head to the bank. So you'll be able to see a couple patterns come out. Those deep fish or those fish over deep water will probably stay because they're going to hang out there much longer in the abyss. And then if the water is higher, that has some brush in the water, some of that grass in the water, and that grass has the ability to thrive a little bit more. Even if it's cool or cold, we should still see a possible shallow movement as well. And if it times up perfectly or something, and there's a, level rose right at the right time, maybe we get a couple of days of warm, even though it's overall been cold, we could see Toledo explode. But like you said, I think even if it's cold, I think the weights are going to show up well. And I'm interested to see the elites be there, because I think the last time we were there was 2017. I want to say John Murray's win. I think it was 2017.
When did Kevin win there?
2016.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was my last year on the water, and I had amazing photos of whopper catches that no one remembers because Kevin Van Dam won the tournament. So if you want to see a meaningless job, we'll cover someone in the top 5 that didn't win when Kevin won. Nobody cares what your photos look like. So I'll always have those. But 2016 was Kevin. 2016 was John Murray, and there was a little shad spawn. There was spawning bass. There was the offshore house foundation. So Toledo in late February, we could see it all. But we haven't had that technology explosion at Toledo with the Elite Series anglers. The only bad thing is, just so happened coincidentally that another top tour put a tournament right before it. So we're going to see a little preview of it for sure, what we could expect a few weeks later, probably.
Okay. Wow. I
don't say any sarcasm in my voice at all. No.
We hear you. We hear you loud and clear, Ronnie. You talked about the water level. Is it drought there? I know, like out in like West or Central Texas, they're dealing with low water. Is Toledo suffering in drought?
I think I don't necessarily know if it's completely due to drought. I think that it does drop in the winter for sure. Maybe a couple different factors there. Ideally, they would drop it maybe a little bit every single winter to maybe let some scruff, some dog fennel, whatever we want to call it, grow up on the bank, and then when it comes up, it can just have a couple great spawns. But I think that it's pretty common. It's not like at a severe level. I think this is like at an expected water level. And if they get just a little bit of not snow melt or ice melt, but just rain in general, that they can maybe fill it up, and it could really put a lot of places at Toledo and a lot more water in play for sure.
Yeah, I just had heard like OH Ivy is like way down, and I didn't know if the East Texas lakes were experiencing the same. But we're going to stay in East Texas because you're going over next. Are you following another tournament trail to Fork?
I don't think so. Except every tournament trails Fork, locals and national tournament, whatever. Lake Fork is one of the pressure places ever. But I'm excited. The one thing, like you guys mentioned before I jumped in here, is that we might be going to places that we've been to before on the Elite Series, but we're going at different times of the year. We're going to Texas pre-spawn instead of spawn or spawn. We're going to Florida in April compared to February. We've got some places in Alabama at different times. Even the Lake Murray event in May is a little bit later than last year, I do believe. And we'll see more things transpire out of that. Maybe we'll see the full capacity of blueback herring spawn. What I do love about our schedule as well is that we do have 2 lakes that are opposites that both have blueback herring. We have a tremendous spotted bass fishery at Smith Lake with that, and a exclusively largemouth fishery at Lake Murray. But we'll see how those 2 things change from early May to late June. And then obviously our smallmouth swing. But Fork being a stop over the last 5 or 6 years, but a totally different time. I'm really excited for that. I don't know. This is the question as soon as I saw it come out. I don't know if this helps Lee Livesey have more of an advantage or less. That's the first question I ask is, awesome, Lake Fork's on the schedule. Does this go into Lee Livesey's wheelhouse more, or does it less? Because the last time I thought that he wasn't going to win it, and I was dead wrong. And so this time around, I want to negate I think he'll win it, but I do think that winter pre-spawn, late winter, early pre-spawn, maybe it's warmer and they're starting the first wave. If there's a moon nearby, who knows? I think there'll be quite a few fish doing a lot of different things, and so I think we'll see somebody like Livesey, shuffle around a little bit. I think the one good thing is that there will be more water in Fork. The last time we were there, they were working on the dam, and it was 5 to 8 feet low, I believe, and it was much lower than that previous to the event. And so I think this year it'll be back to regular, which more water in lakes always just provides more opportunity. And so I think that we could see fish get caught on Bass Live in less than 2 feet over and hanging out over 30 feet of water with techniques we've seen, Patrick Walters utilize. And I think that we'll see a lot more people go out in the abyss looking for that 35-pound bag.
Well, I want to see that. I want to see some share lunkers get caught.
Yeah.
In those 2 events. I'm wondering, do you are you able to keep a share lunker if one is caught during a Bassmaster tournament? Can that go over to the share lunker program?
I don't between Texas Parks and Wildlife and Bass, probably there's a partnership there. We could do that. And luckily, even though it is a catchway release tournament, because of the slot size at Fork, if you catch a share lunker, Lord, I pray it's over 24 inches. And we can bring it. That would be a crazy looking bass if it was less. But I have caught a 6.5 pounder that was 17 inches before. So there's just not at Fork, but just I know fish shapes are different in February compared to June. A 10 pounder in June is way longer than it probably is in February because they just have the ability to keep weight a lot better in the colder water temps. So I would hope so, but if someone catches a share lunker, please do it with a camera in your boat so that we can document it with a scale and at least, hey, even if they don't take it or you can't take it, I'm calling it Texas, Parks and Wildlife share lunker. So
I want to invite you because we're going to go catch some in Lake Athens. We're going to be we got a Bass University at the Freshwater Fishery Center this year. I guess it's the 20th or 21st. But we're going fishing on the 22nd, 23rd, Monday and Tuesday. We're having a Bass U meetup, and we're fishing with all the people that come to class, and we're gonna go catch some share lunkers down there. Ron, you got to come down and join us.
That's awesome, especially if at the hatchery or something. I'll totally fish in those tanks where those fish are. I'm just kidding.
we saw a 20-pounder there, or at least that was the estimate when we were there last, and I never saw anything like it. I mean, you're looking at it in the tank and it's swimming towards you, and it looks like it's a foot thick across the back.
Probably is.
Eyeballs the size of cue balls. Just giant.
The only thing that I've held that rivals, a double-digit bass is my daughter, and she was only 7 pounds and change. So I can't imagine doubling her size and being like, and it fighting back. She didn't really fight back that much when I first held her, So I can't imagine like a 14 to 16 pounder fighting back and what that feels like. No doubt, but I hope we see some.
Well, I hope so too. Hopefully we did. Last year we got ice storms, which hurt us, but makes the fishing real good. You never know. You're going back to Grand for the Classic. What are the techniques you think that are going to dominate the Classic this year?
Man, I think late March. We always say in Arkansas, Kyle Jesse, Bassmaster employee as well on the water for tournaments. We always talk about Arkansas fishing, and even if it gets warm in March, they're not going to spawn till April. And I don't know what the case would be for Grand, but being on that same latitudinal, longitudinal, whatever the word is, for as Arkansas, Grand Lake has the capabilities of it being warm and pre-spawn fishing out the wazoo. I doubt that there's really many fish caught spawning. I would expect that to maybe be another week or two form pattern. I'd expect definitely a jig on some ducks, bait, bladed jig, no doubt. We could see some shallow cranking as well. Obviously, there'll be somebody probably pursuing forward-facing sonar tactics down in the clearer water, probably towards the lower portion of the lake. But if there is some color in the lake, you could definitely see some of this rip wraps. And there's just so many types of rock structures, whether it's bluff banks, 45 banks, chunk rock, long points with rock on them. That's the huge structure at Grand is forms and types of rock. But then we see in Pat Classic places with big, root balls and wood and trees have been big factors, stumps. And so if you time it up well, I think that you could keep a couple of different patterns in play. You'd have to run them to perfection probably, but it's hard to not think about the Oklahoma guys that maybe have some tendencies, knowing that this time of the year could be a good deal or not. Also, I'll have to say, I'm going to go ahead and say it now so that when people think they're onto something, we call them out and know that they either listen to Bass U Live or they looked at the same stats I did. But Matt Airy is one to watch for the Classic. He came up short at Ray Roberts a few years ago, but he has, I think, a second, third, and a fourth in either Tour or Toyota Series events at Grand that time of the year, like the last 2 weeks of March, 2 weeks. So Matt Airy may be, I could see it. I asked Christie and Palmer have had success at Hartwell, and they really relate it back to Oklahoma at times. And doesn't make sense to people who probably think and have a stereotype of Oklahoma. But the way you fish in the Carolinas does translate very well to Oklahoma. We see Hank Cherris winning a Classic there. His first Classic back in 2013. Matt Airy's success there, and you partner that with Christie and Palmer's and even Edwin Inver's success like at Hartwell in that area, and they're from Oakland. We could definitely see some players for sure with some of those tactics from the East Coast that we predominantly know and come to love.
That's interesting. I want to invite all the competitors at this year's Classic to check out Jason Christie's pre-spawn tactics on Bass University. You want to get subscribed, you guys. I promise you, you're gonna want to watch that one. But and it's interesting because of his big spinnerbait strategy that he uses a lot that time of year. And I've been, a couple of my buddies are really dialed into that big spinnerbait on forward facing and triggering big bites. Doing that. That's what I'm predicting, Ronnie. This year we're going to see more power baits being effective with the new technology. That's my prediction for this year.
I told Lisa Talmadge this, the Elite Series tournament director, when we were doing the Opens live at Watts Bar, Lake of the Ozark, Harris Chain. I texted her, said, one solution to forward-facing sonar finesse fatigue is fishing in the fall. Because the big jig you were talking about on brush piles, you're looking for structure a lot more. You're using your electronics to find structure and trusting that there's fish there. It's a different kind of style with a big rod and bigger line doing that. And I think that is also something that we could be. You know what I'm wanting, Pete? I want it to rain like cats and dogs, but be a warm rain right during practice or right after the practice period, so that when we see Grand Lake for the first time or the Classic day of competition or the final day of practice, it could be a new ball game of warm water, rolling into that body of water with some dirty water coming into it. We could see definitely some action at Grand. And if we just take the fishing out of it and we think about the competitors, we have got the last 3 classic anglers with different connections. Can Jeff Gustafson go back-to-back and defend his title? He is also Jason Christie's roommate, so he would be maybe dialed, not dialed in by Jason himself, but just a little bit more comfortable knowing he's got the guy, bumping boats with him in the driveway. Then we've got Jason, who got the classic monkey off his back at Hartwell. Now he's looking after a tougher year and surviving the end of the season to make the classic. That now he gets to fish it at Grand, a lake that he would maybe consider one of his home lakes. And then you think of the time before Jason Christie, which is Hank Cherry, maybe having some revenge on Grand Lake his first time. So if we're just looking at the last 3 classic champs, we are looking at a lot of storylines that they are hoping to take the title once again, not to mention the other 53 anglers that are about as hungry as you can make them to win that title.
It's awesome. We're going to be there. Bass University will be there, guys. Stop by and see us. If you're a subscriber of Bass University, we'll for sure be on the floor and have something cool for you guys. And can't wait for that. And the next tournament that I want to talk about, which is the next one on the schedule, is Florida, which I love because we're going there at a time of year that, man, I don't remember ever seeing an event that time of year. That looks super fun to me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Florida in April, just because it is a different look. We'll see some different deals. The weather and the water is a lot more stable then. So when we're always thinking Florida prime February because everywhere else is just absolutely miserable to live if you want to go catch bass. So we want to go to Florida in February, but it is so touch and go with the fronts that come through, the cold weather that could drop, fog as well being a problem. And so I think that in April, you'll still have some fish in the spawn phase because they'll start spawning just after Thanksgiving down at Okeechobee. Certain times, certain years, it finally cools off enough around Thanksgiving that they want to maybe start to spawn. So we see spawning fish in South Florida from at least Christmas time on. And the St. John's and the Harris chain no doubt have spawners through April and May, maybe even June, like at the Kissimmee chain as well. So there are definitely going to be a delayed wave, but you could also see frogs come into play. You could definitely see some different types of grass fishing. I pray that the weather is good so that areas other than just Banana Cove pop up and we don't have half the elite field fishing where the great population of grass and fish are. And then we've got every single lake in play. The fact that Apopka has gotten so much more traffic recently, that's not a guaranteed place to go win the tournament. And if anything, there's a lot more risk and storytelling and drama at the Harris chain that locking through there after going through 2 major idle zones on the way there, and you can only get 3 boats in the lock at Apopka. That's a lot of stress. We saw Ben Milliken do that stress to qualify for the Elite Series, the Open.
Unbelievable.
That couldn't have been a crazier story. He goes in there and catches his limit and then comes back and survives it enough to get a top 5 finish there and the Elite Series. You've got Harris, Little Harris, Eustis, Dora, Beauclair, Carlton. Carlton was a place that was really utilized in the championship last week for the Bassmaster, the final event of the season. Carlton was, and that's also a place that in the fall to winter time period where the college championship was dominated back during 2020 time. So we've seen every lake have a chance to shine, and we can't forget about Griffin as well to the west. Actually the closest lake to Venetian Gardens you can get if you're allowed to drive across the street, but you got to go all the way around and lock through to get to Griffin, but it is so close. So many different factors, eelgrass, hydrilla, bank grass, shell bars, a lot of things at the Harris chain. My dad, that's where they live. They live in Dora. And so if any elite anglers get a sandwich, the house is right there. But also if my dad will be a boat driver, most likely for those 2 events, which leads us to the St. John's, which if we just headline the St. John's as 4 Elite Series event of the year and Rick Clunn's 500th tournament, I don't care how the fishing goes. That's the storyline of the week for me. Wow. That's pretty dang cool to see it happen there on a place timed up perfectly that Rick Clunn has won his last 2 Elite Series events at.
That's awesome. Will that legit? That's his 500th tournament.
I was worried that he was going to fish like he always fishes a division of the Opens, and so if he fished a division, it would be the Ouachita, Eufaula, Logan Martin division most likely, and he would have fished his 400th event at the Harris or his 500th event at the Harris chain, but he's not fishing the Opens this year, so his 500th event goes back one tournament, and that goes to the St. John's River. So super cool there to see something like the 50 years and 500 events. I'll just say this: we could carry the wave of momentum for Bassmaster through the rest of the year and probably for another year or two if Rick Clunn were to win his 500th event. Like that would be absolutely. I don't even want you to finish the Rick. Just retire right then. A clean 500 and a W to end it. Oh my gosh.
That would be amazing. That would be well, everybody on the planet, I think, will be rooting for him to do that exact thing, you know. And I love the St. John's. I can't think of the patterns, you know. Like it's so interesting. You mentioned it. Like we've been every time I've been sent to Florida for a tournament, it's January, February. I've never made a cast in March through December, and you know, I have no idea what the pattern will be.
April is considered the best month of fishing, you know, for the most part in the South, you know, Atlantic South, and we've never made an Elite Series cast during the best month of the year, quote unquote, in Florida. And so it would be great to see that pop off. One thing I do think it does for the St. John's River is it keeps a lot of the actual main river in play. You're not going to just see dead end, back end canals for sight fish or for the population of fish that went back there and don't want to leave because it got cold, or they're just hanging there through all the stages. You'll probably see a little bit of crescent maybe come in there. Rodman, if it's in play, I have to look and see if, you know, we've been there so many times at St. John's. Some years it's been in place, some years it hasn't. You've got all those lakes at the bottom of George, and I pray that they don't just drive past George. I think that there have been some efforts in the Palatka region to plant grass and protect grass from native, you know, manatee consumption of the grass or other effects of the grass. Praying that the grass that they did plant is able to explode there, and there is some grass back. And if it does do Lake George, that is one of the biggest lakes in the state of Florida, but also in the country in general. And to not have that factor the last few years has been a bummer. But to see it maybe come back like it did in 2019 or 2016 or prior, I remember my first Elite Series event at the St. John's. I think it was year 2. No, I think it was 2014 or 2015, my first or second year. And I remember power poling down on Cabbage Point at Lake George, and we just sat still and had 40 anglers sight fishing around all those eelgrass clumps and clear water on Lake George. I even had anglers say, "Hey, don't move, sit still. There's a bass that has pulled up and is sitting under the shade of your boat," and they catch it out from underneath our boat. And so it was cool to see that time. So it's sad to see it barren, but I do think that it could be coming back. And I think that if we have a lot more of the main river of the St. John's, that Willaca region, we've seen it one in. You get all the way down to George, crest factors for a person in the top 10. You have Rodman. We'll see the old St. John's dynamic nature, not just Florida fishing, you know, and hoping that one bites a devil's horse.
Yeah. Okay. I love. It's going to be shell beds and eelgrass on the main river in current. That's how it's going to be one. Write it down, Ronnie.
I don't doubt it. It could be. We've been saying that it's been in Cliff Prince's wheelhouse every time it gets ultra cold, and he has normally came through with top 20s or top 10s every time. And it would be very cool to see no mention his this year because it's a different time of the year. It could be a different dynamic, yet he maybe has an advantage because he knows not only are they biting, but now he's got a lot more spots that could factor in April probably.
Yep. That's going to be that'll be fun. That would be a fun one for me. Of course, I'm a tidal river guy. St. John's is a really fun river to fish. I wish I could be. Is it too late for me to get into that one, Ron?
I think, at least I've seen on the chat boards that a lot of these people are planning to sign up for the Elite Series because they can do it. And so, yeah, just put your money down, Pete. I'll reserve your spot. I'll send you the email who to respond to. We'll see if Hank Weldon can slide you in there from a Legends exemption because you are a legend in my eyes. I will say we've got some cool stuff coming from Bass Live as well, and so hopefully not only in studio but other dynamics involved. So hopefully we get to show those off. And maybe Florida is a great place to do it. Who knows? That's just a little tease.
Yeah. What I want. Can you tease? You can't dive in any deeper? What are we doing?
I can't dive in deeper, man. I might not even be there for that event if I dive in deeper. I might be in a closet here somewhere.
Dude,
they might
you're
put me in the ground.
You're pulling like an Ellie on me. You're making an announcement that you're going to make an announcement.
Yes, I'm gonna retire at some point in the future. Let's think about this. I rode with Ike and Ellie at the 2018 Classic at Hartwell in final practice because I thought it was his last Classic because he was gonna retire. And it's 2024 and he's still going strong. But I know it's ebbed and flowed, but that's so fun. It's like, man, I was really eager to not want to miss out on a moment with Ike. And I didn't miss out on a moment, but man, I thought it was going to be a different kind of moment.
Well, I kind of think we'll see Mike fishing around no matter what his retirement
we
looks
need to
like.
see him in a Classic again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we'll see him in the winner circle again.
Good.
Maybe at the next tournament at Lake Murray in South Carolina, where we got a blueback lake. It's going to be in May. Is it? I'm not that dialed on that part of the country. Are those bluebacks going to be spawning, or is it done in early May?
I'm not quite sure because I'm a little disconnected from the Carolinas compared to when I was, living there and breathing North and South Carolina fishing. You got to think I've been in Arkansas for 7 years, so I've been tormented tough fishing for 7. But I do think the bluebacks will factor. I think that they definitely are in some phase of their spawn, but at minimum, they are definitely in the phase of being active. So not only will we see those large hordes of fish that we saw in late April up shallow, that was the best tournament of the year, and it wasn't the highest weight event. It was the best tournament of the year because of what the anglers who didn't even catch them, how happy and pleased they were. There were reports of guys who would have 12-pound bags that were missing the cut that saw hundreds of 4 to 5 pounders up on these shallow points that were impossible to catch unless you timed it up with a school of bluebacks that swam through and you were at execute, or you got on the shad spawn low light. To see that many big ones in a lake, it could be a crash course on a few choice points and offshore areas for these blueback herring and some of these anglers to time it up. I think, like we saw Brian New do on day 1 at Murray in April, it's one of those deals where as you get closer to May, June, July, it's a pick up your trolling motor, go to a spot, make a cast or two, pick up your trolling motor, go to a spot, make a cast or two. Mm-hmm. I think Brian New ran that in April, and that is a time of year where you can get away with staying a little longer. And I think he ran a little too much. He'll probably attest to that. He spent a little too much time running, and he wasn't never able to get comfortable to know where these fish were, if he just missed it or if he's about to, crash course in them. So I think that if you run a little too much in April, especially March and April, you could be at the bottom of the leaderboard. But if you start to run around mid-May through the summer, that is the ticket to catching 5-pounder off of every spot. So we'll see. And also that's the time where fish could relate from points and clay points, flat points to play things like cane and offshore stuff. So we could see a good balance of run and gun versus I found an area with these 3 points that I'm just going to rotate and milk. And maybe we'll see a few fish on bed. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe not the final day Hewicks, but maybe some on day 1 that we'll see start off. It'll be a lot less spawn, but they'll still be spawners.
That'll be a fun one to watch because that run and gun, like you're talking about, Ronnie,
it's crazy.
If you're on it and your timing is right, it's like unbeatable, but it is volatile. Yeah. If your timing's off by just a few minutes,
bad rotation.
We'll see. And And back in the day, the Carolina, the little subtle things that we used to do, you pull up on a point and you don't have forward facing sonar back in the 2010s era. You would sit there and wait, and if you'd see a splash, you knew that they were there possibly, and you could get on some schooling action. You had to trust also that they were there. But one way you could manufacture it, if you saw a blip and it went away, or you pull up and it's dying off, you see it, everyone's seen it, where they're schooling and you're pulling over there, and as soon as you come off pad, it's done, and you're like, I missed it. You could fish for an hour and think there's no fish. But one little deal is take that boat, and you're almost corralling those bait, and just do a couple circles on your spot, get that bait pushed together, and those bass it'll start to do it again. You can kind of manufacture and start it back up. And so we could see maybe like that. Also, forward facing sonar will teach us where those fish go when they're not actively feeding on blueback herring. Are they hanging right beside of it, threatening them like, hey, I'm right here, I could eat you at any moment? Or are they actually pulled off to the deeper part of the point, the right side, the left side, maybe a hard spot, not up on the clay? So I think we see a lot of great visuals of feeding frenzies on forward facing sonar, which I've witnessed in person with hybrids at Lake Hartwell. So I can't imagine if it was 5-pounders in an Elite Series event. I might have to change pants before weigh-in.
I like it. I like the enthusiasm, and I'm excited about this tournament now. After talking to you about it, it's going to be very dynamic. I think that's going to be cool. I want to talk about the next one because we're on to the Tennessee River, and all my reports from our Bass U family are Wheeler is on a major uptick right now. It's just crushing it right now.
Wheeler is dubbed as like the redheaded stepchild of the Tennessee River. It's the lake that gets the most affected. Like Pickwick and Kentucky Lake are the water holders. So a lot of water gets flowed Wheeler. It's just used as a waterway in between these other lakes. And then the fishing has had its ups and its downs, and the bass virus and the populations, and we see smallmouth rise up. We see largemouth come back. We see all these different things. And so I think that we have all, at least if you're a bass fisherman and have fished in the South, you have poormouthed Wheeler Lake at some point. But like I said, I'm super excited to be back there for an Elite Series event. We've had some epic bush flipping tournaments there. Tommy Biffle, David Walker. We had Dave Lefebvre almost won. If it wasn't for Takahiro's swim bait and the Decatur Flats, he would have won the last one. We've seen a lot of great shallow water Tennessee River fishing at Wheeler, but we've also seen the Decatur Flats come into play. We've seen some offshore smallmouth and largemouth, and we had the infamous KVD who moment from Jeremy Starks back in the day when he said KVD who, and then he goes and follows it up and wins the event. I thought that guy he put the curse on his back for saying, but he actually goes and wins the event. So Wheeler is rooted in history, and seeing the opens there at Toledo Bend and at Wheeler, that was just a little taste that, man, some iconic places in bass fishing history are back. And we'll see them hopefully transpire. Who knows how it'll be in June? I would expect textbook Tennessee River offshore fishing. But if there's extra current pulling through there, it could be magical. We've seen grass. We've seen the Elk River come into play, I believe. I think it's the Elk River. And you could see one into the other factor for sure. And it helps being right there where we are, Cater. You don't have to go far. You don't have to make a 45-minute run to go catch some bass. It's right out there in your front, from your view.
It's funny you say that because right there, it reminds me of the Delaware River right there in Decatur, like the city. It's like that's what the tournaments I've fished there, it's like you're fishing the cityscape here in Philadelphia when you're there.
Industry, big time.
Yeah, it's just like it. But the grass is my last report is the Decatur Flats has grass. The last tournament I fished there, it's probably 100 years ago now, but there was no grass. So it's interesting to hear that grass is back. It's real prevalent all over the flats. So, man, it's got to be a factor that time of year, I got to imagine.
And I think that one big thing, it's I've never fished an event at Oneida, but I've covered enough tournaments there that my rule of thumb, if I ever went back to Oneida to fish a tournament, I'm going to go practice for days. But if on day one of the tournament I'm running and I see birds crashing, I don't care how good I caught them in practice. This is a bonus opportunity for a limit of fish. It's the same thing at Wheeler, I feel, is if you're practicing 3 days and you have some stuff that's sneaky and off the wall, but you're running down the lake and there's a spot on the Decatur Flats that's open, you pull in there and maximize catching a couple bonus fish and saving your actual practice spots for day 2, 3, and 4 of the event, or day 3 and 4 of the event if you can make it work. But if you get an early boat number and there's a spot available, maybe it's close to a waypoint you've had from practice, like a bonus. Go in there and try to catch a few fish, because that's a place that's going to get pounded. You don't need to save it for day 4. You need to save it for day 1 and use your other goods for day 2, 3, and 4, maybe in your strategy. So that's the rule of thumb I have at Oneida, and that's the rule of thumb I have at Wheeler.
That's a good rule of thumb. I like it. And we're going. You mentioned this earlier. We're going to Smith Lake, deep, clear. We're going at a unique season. That's how's that one going to go down?
That was the most texted about occasion that we had on the Elite Series when the schedule came out, and it wasn't most texted because of excitement. At times, people said, "You're going to get us killed out there. There's going to be so many partiers the week before 4th of July." But I think that we're going to see some guys maybe get way back in some creeks and a foot of water for some big largemouth. We're going to see some guys on the main lake catching them over 100 feet of water, spotted bass. And you're going to get at the end of the event. I'm going to do this. I normally do this on spotted bass places. I used to do it at Champlain as well. Places with mixed species that you can catch, all spotted bass and win, or you can catch all largemouth or win, or you can catch all smallmouth or win. I like to track how the top 10 has caught fish. Are we seeing a guy with 10 spotted bass after 2 days of competition, or are we seeing 7 spots, 3 largemouth? What's the balance for that top 10 that makes it? How many largemouth can someone catch to make it? Or how many spotted bass can someone outlast the rest of the field with, just consistency's sake? So that is a cool factor. And I've been there. I've been to Smith in the fall, and I've been there in the spring. I haven't been there in the dead summer. But if you really want to learn about southern forward-facing and clear water, I know that people don't, but there are a good contingent of people who do and that will benefit from watching this. We're going to see some really, really sneaky ways of presenting baits on fish that are highly pressured and that fish are very stingy, and you're going to be battling different conditions on it. So if you put Smith Lake out and you look at the map, you could pick anywhere you want to go and probably find a place to catch fish that'll compete this week or in that week.
Drop your trolling motor and start fishing. Drop your trolling motor at the launch ramp. That's my advice to all you guys.
Do not cut any point short and go airborne. We do not want to see that again. That was the last time we had a major event at Smith past the tournament trail. We saw anglers, taking a tight turn and they ended up getting some lakefront property before re-entering the water. But yeah.
Well, we'll pray for everybody's safety. Keep it in the water, guys. My favorite lake on the planet is Next, and we saw what happened in July, I guess, last year, where everybody, and that frustrated me because the inland sea, I have a love-hate relationship with on Champlain, because I find them and then they disappear. and now I saw where they disappeared to, right? We saw how everybody tracked them down and got offshore with them. Man, I early August, I'm maybe the same kind of deal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we now discovered the gut within the gut. There's the gut at Champlain, and now there's the gut within the gut of another place. And I think last year in August was the first time we had ever been to Champlain in August. I think we'd been there in June and July. Every week of July, we've been there, I think. And we hadn't been there that point of August before. Maybe we had a tournament at the end of the first few days of August, but we never had one completely that time of the year in August, and at least for Elite Series history. So it was good to see that. It was absolutely crazy that the conditions lined up spectacularly for largemouth to be a factor, and they were a non-factor. So that goes to speak. That goes to show how
Shocking.
big smallmouth have gotten. How you can run to tie, but it's no longer necessary or essential. It's actually more of a risk than it used to be to run there now, because you can catch the same equal weight up north with smallmouth than you can if you made that risk and run down there and it works out well. Also, doing that for 4 days, you literally have to wish for 4 days of calm water on the St. Lawrence River like we had if you're hoping to make it there and back and not have issues. So Champlain's changed a little bit. I think we learned a lot this last time there, and to see, it was kind of like a St. Clair vibe to see 9 anglers inland sea and 1 angler not in the inland sea make the top 10 was very interesting. I think that it's going to change up the area once again. It's not going to be that same area. I will probably catch some fish and have some good weight out of it, but I couldn't imagine had someone just hunker in the same area and have just thousands of fish coming to you or being around you. And like we said, if you do have that many fish, then in a pelagic setting with this many boats around there, you could be the one that lands on them today, and you could be the one watching the show tomorrow. So there's a lot of still stability in that. And so I do think we did see some smallmouth hammers show up in that event, whereas like St. Clair, I'm not saying they weren't hammers, but the traditional smallmouth guys struggled at St. Clair last year because of how odd it was where they were positioned compared to what they expect. But at Champlain, we saw a lot more of the Austin Felixes, the Jay Curits, the Alex Redwines, the guys who are really good at it. I'll even put Cody Huff and Justin Atkins in that territory. We've seen how good Bryant Smith was, and then obviously Kiyoya Fujita, an absolute just menace when it comes to catching fish offshore with his electronics, which we also saw him doing that at Lake. We did not mention that, but that could be a little bit of a factor too mixed in. Is there will be a lot more fish in his region at Lake Murray that he was catching them, like that depth zone and that where the fish are programmed in that region. There'll be a lot more fish in that region for Kiyoya to be able to go through, possibly at Murray if he did the same pattern. But yeah, we can't forget about him at Champlain, setting the highest weight that we've ever had there, and at St. Clair and at St. Lawrence. All 3 of them broke the highest elite weights we've ever had at those given places. So only up from here, I guess. In 3 years, we'll be asking, can we break 100 pounds at Champlain?
So.
Well, I want you to instruct somebody to go into the belly of the beast on Champlain out there in front of Burlington, and where it's like 10,000 feet deep and it's out in the middle. And I'm like, I just want to see somebody be competitive in that part of the lake. I think it's out there, but it's just so vast and so harsh with the wind, but I'd love to see that this year.
Or at least like pan around and show us Champy. Like if that's gotta be where he lives.
Right?
Where's he at?
Catch some lake trout, take some images of Champy, and that'd be awesome.
I've been to Champlain covering open that you were in, Pete, and I'll say that the inland sea is so sneaky scary. Like I remember going in there at the bottom of the inland sea, and it took 45 minutes for me to get to midpoint of it because of how rough it was. I didn't believe it, so I had to go see it. And it was absolutely one of the craziest. My boat driver, we speared the first wave we saw, and he said, sorry. And I said, I'm already wet, so just get us there and back safe. Like, I don't care if I get wet. Just keep us safe, because it was crazy. And so I think that to see, we take it for granted now how these guys manage this big, rough water and find fish and then actively catch fish. It's a miracle for me to make it out there and to at least stay on the same spot and know triangulate where I'm at, and I'm not lost. I'm not all the way down in Ticonderoga because I haven't looked up, and I've floated back there. To see them manage the big water and find 7 to 10 small dots on your screen and keep track of them, like that's absolutely incredible to me. So kudos to them, and I look forward to seeing Shannon again.
Yeah, that's it. Coming around Cumberland Head is one of the most daunting tasks in fishing. When the wind's blowing out of the south, I don't care, it rivals any lake on the planet. That south wind stacks it right there. And I mean, I promise you, those waves are 10 feet tall at times coming around that point, you know?
We have seen 3 or 4 guys go south and not make it back in time for weigh-in. They may make it back a couple minutes late. They may make it back 15 to 20 minutes late and have their weight zeroed for the day. Or they may just say, like, I'll see you at 6 o'clock when the wind's supposed to die off. I'll make my way back. Or somebody can bring me my truck and boat or trailer. It is a monster, and it's crazy because there are a lot bigger lakes that don't get nearly as rough as that lake does, and it is crazy.
And you know, it reminds me of the only time I was late without a breakdown involved. But it was on Champlain, and I was fishing up by the Canadian border on the New York side, and I mean, it was slick as glass, as slick as this table. And I knew, and I had seen that condition before. I knew it takes me like 25 minutes ballpark to get back on flat water because it's not that far, but you got to go through some big water. But if it's flat, you just, it takes 25 minutes. And I had to push it because I was not having a great tournament. So I wanted to use every minute I could to try. I needed a couple more pounds, I thought, to get a check or do whatever I was trying to accomplish. And I pushed it. So I left it 25 minutes. And about 5 miles into the ride, I got hit with a light breeze. 10 miles into the ride, I'm in 2 to 4 footers. 3/4 of the way home, I'm in those giant waves that we were just talking about. And I'm like, how is that possible? The lake is so big. You have different weather patterns happening simultaneously on the same body of water. But I was in those 5 to 7 footers, whatever they were, and I'm smashing my boat to bits, jumping waves, and I'm like, you know what? I think we're just going to take the late penalty today, because I'm going to kill my boat and myself trying to get back in. But that's Lake Champlain for you.
That's the worst thing is when you crest a 5-foot wave and you see the flags for the BASS trailer waving. And you can see it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's so much farther away than it looks, but like it's right there too. But I'll also say I was a little surprised the last time we were at Champlain, other than this past year, like previous to the 2023 stop, we saw North play a lot more. On the New York side, we saw shallow, top crane areas a little bit different time of year. But I'm interested to see if that shows up. Like if someone can get on that and everyone else is distracted by the inland sea for good reason, that maybe some other place could actually contend. But it's all, who knows why these smallmouth move where they do, or up, as it rashes up there or whatever it's called. If they just swam to the inland sea and they're going to make their way back soon, or if they just pulled off to the main channel, who knows? But we could see that portion of it, that straight north of takeoff area, hopefully factor top 10 soon.
Yeah, it has many times in the past. So it just it didn't for your last tournament there. Lake Ontario, I see we're coming out of Waddington. I love Thousand Islands, one of the greatest places on the planet. Are the guys going to be allowed into the lake, or are we holding them in the river? What's going on there?
I think it's all in play. If I remember last question I had, I think it's all in play. So if you want to, so that's the big thing is you're in Clayton and you run out to the lake, it's not much of a run time. The risk is a lot lower, and you're going to maybe have a lot more water to share with people. When you go from Waddington, there's a lot more risk because, for one, it's going to take a lot more time to get here, especially if it's windy. But also, two, you don't have a buddy system that if you beat yourself up going there, you got to get back. And if there's no one else to pick you up, what are you going to do? So there's going to be a lot more risk for guys. I think also the guys are going to have to stop on the way down and get gas so they can go out into the lake. They just want to come back and get gas again on the way back. Yeah. And that's more time. And so it's not going to be like, oh, we're in Clayton, guaranteed going to go catch 25 to 28 pounds because you got all day and you only have 35 minutes each way run time. No, you're going to have 2 hours of possible run time. So you have half your day to get it done. So we're going to see a lot more shucking and jiving and some negotiating time and cutting it close. And we're also probably going to see somebody stick to their guns and not make a long run. We've seen plenty of big bags come from Waddington and just northeast of there. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw someone else do it as well. Or maybe we see some people in the Ogdensburg again show up, and that whole area as you kind of run down there, Alexandria Bay, all those different things.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of water. I wonder, I think about the last year's tournament, and guys are out at, who was it? Was it Zaldane that was out past like the Ducks? He was like way. I mean,
I think he was almost in Lake Superior or something.
he was so far, and it is reachable, but you're going to leave yourselves about 3 hours to fish, so you better be on them. But Lake Ontario, man, they can stack up. They can stack up for you. It'll be fun to watch.
It'll be great, and I don't know if Riz is going to be at that one on site, and if he is, how special Waddington is to bass fishing history and the crowds that show up there and the community that desires to have Bassmaster tournaments there. So it'll be very cool and a much appreciation to that area for really introducing the world to the greatest smallmouth fishing lake in the country or in the world, exposing the world to this awesome place when we got to come back your way in 2013 and got to come do it ever since. So I'm thrilled that we're back in Waddington. Clayton has been absolutely fantastic. It helped us out in a pinch during COVID when times were different, and then they've been a great partner since then. And I know that we'll be back to Clayton in the future as well. And it's always good to mix in a Waddington, mostly because, like we said, all these other lakes that we've been to in the past, our schedule, they're at a different time of the year. We're not at a different time of the year with the St. Lawrence, but we've got a lot of factors that make it a different tournament fishery every time we go there. The wind could blow and it could be rough. The wind could not blow and it could be calm. We could go out of Clayton and be close to the lake. We could go out of Waddington and stay in the river. We've got a lot of different variations of it. You got Canada in play once again in the last 2 years, and you'll have the U.S. in play as well. So there's a lot of great aspects to this place and those communities. So it's a special area up in the world. If you've never parked your truck and boat in a grocery store parking lot and seen just a random post in the parking lot for a horse and buggy to be tied up to, then you've never been to the St. Lawrence River.
It is very unique. It's one of my favorites, and I'm rooting for Brock to do it again on largemouth and smash them up.
Awesome.
Yeah,
he'll have to be locked in the Classic. He'll have to be significantly locked in the Classic to even look at largemouth, probably, now that he's had so much success with smallmouth too.
Yeah, right. I love it. I love the largemouth there. We vacation there sometimes with me and my son. We love to fish for the largemouth up there.
The first thing we do is when we have the private bass track map is day one, we immediately zoom in about 30 minutes after take, see who's in a bay to see who could be trying to do largemouth. It's the first thing I do is I look to see, is Greg Hackney and Brandon Card fishing for largemouth again, or whatever. And so I think it's always interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And man, I wish they were just a little bit bigger so that they would play in that tournament. It's the smallies they're just such footballs, and you got to do it. But man, what a great wrap up. I know we've been ignoring the IM boards. Justin, what do you got over there?
Yeah, so St. Crest wants to know, Ronnie, what tournament are you most excited to cover this season, and what tournament do you think will be the toughest?
I think I'm really looking forward to Murray. I really like Murray. It's the Champlain of the South. I really like Murray. I think tough could be Smith for the weights, but it'll also be ultra tight, which means that, you catch a 2.5 pounder and boom, you could be in the cut, which I always think those are so captivating. Winyah Bay, Sabine River, it won't be at that level of low weight and tightness, but it is always, I love being at a place where a 4-pound largemouth is a difference maker for your entire tournament if you catch one. And so that would be very cool to see that play out with the tight weights and that aspect of it. So I think Murray will be, and I can't believe I was favorited 2 blueback herring lakes. It's a perfect Carolinian I am that I just did that. But I want to say I can't split the Florida swing or the Texas swing differently. Like, they're so similar. Like the Florida swing, both lakes are similar at times. So I'm excited to see 2 weeks of that. And then the Louisiana and Texas, I'm excited to see 2 weeks of that, even though it's two different bodies of water. They're trained and programmed the same way. So I'm interested to see how they all factor, but I do not envy the cold weather that could be fishing in to start the year. But my two, if I had to say it, looking forward to Murray, and I'm intrigued about the tightness and aka like tightness of Smith. Yep.
Those spots on Smith get crazy eyes. I've seen it, where you catch one and it's got 50, it's got, half a dozen back, and they come back to the boat and you're like, all right, I'm going to catch them every cast. No, that's not happening. They look at you like you're nuts and you don't know what you're doing. And they are very, very tricky to catch, but they're huge too. So I think that's a great assessment. I think Smith is going to be challenging. Justin, can I throw it back to you?
Yeah, let me look at one more here.
Yeah, I remember I remember the size of those spots at Smith, and the weights on the scale were like small, and but yet the ones you would see were like 4 and 5 pounders. They're just very tricky to catch. What do you got?
So Wolf of Walmart wants to know how much do you think forward-facing sonar is going to play in some of the shallow water events this year, like St. John's and stuff like that?
I think it's always be used, but whether it is like exploited or dominant is another deal. I think those shell bars, we say shallow, like you guys are teeing up with Brandon Lesser's seminar. These bars aren't deep. So those entrances to the canals and those lily pad fields, they're not deep. But what you can see, shallow wise with that, I think that we'll see some of that there. I think we'll see some of it on some offshore spots at Eustis and Harris and Carlton and Dora for the Harris chain as well. I think that those could definitely be places that we see it once again. The grass at Griffin, if you use forward-facing sonar to see the fish, but to see the line of the grass, I mean, that's the one thing that's alleviated. If you're going to go throw a jerkbait on a grass line, you're getting hung up on grass and you're throwing marker buoys out to try to figure out where the grass line is. Now it's you could be a lot more efficient, a lot smarter. You can try some baits that would be risky to get hung up, knowing that you can see if you're about to get hung up. So I think that we'll see it in that aspect. Shallow.
Good
Wheeler.
Stuff.
I mean, I think that we could see some people at Wheeler doing it as well a little bit, in a shallower nature, not just on the flats deeper.
Interesting. Yeah, it's great stuff, guys. And I got so occupied talking to Ronnie that I bypassed the IM board, guys. Sorry, but I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us.
That's my fault too.
Love talking this stuff with you, Ronnie. I'd like to maybe finish up with taking this on. Man, there are a pile of brand new super studs that are coming into the elites this year. Those EQ guys are killers, extremely competent and versatile young anglers, mostly. With Ben Milliken being the senior of that crew, but it's proven that he's got super talent and great chops for this kind of stuff. Is this going to be like the toughest elite field we've seen in years?
We say that every year, Pete, and yes, it will be. It will be. It always is, and it's going to be even bigger and better. I mean, that's you're taking the top. What is that? 10 out of 200, 5%. You're taking the top 5% of the Simio series and injecting them into an already stacked elite series, and the only people that you're subtracting out of the elite series are the bottom 5%. So it by nature has to be better every single year. But this group, one thing and Gerald Swindle did a great video on this, whether he's for forward-facing sonar, for younger angler, whatever his biases are. He had a point a couple weeks ago on a video, and it was talking about the desire. Sure, dad can buy the boat. Dad can take you fishing as a high school angler. Dad can be your boat captain, but you can't pay for desire. You can't pay for the put in the work. And to see some of these guys that are younger go pre-practice lakes when no one else is around, the character thing. What are you doing to further your career when no one's looking, at least on the legal side of it? All these guys are going and putting in work and going to lakes that they may not know about. There are guys like JT and John Garrett pre-fishing lakes on the elite schedule towards the end of the open season, knowing that they most likely have qualified and they want to go get prepared for next year already. The desire of this next group of anglers, I'll say back in the day, a lot of innovators and a lot of the first people through the front door of bass fishing that paved the way for where we are now. Thank you to those who did that. But a lot of them lucked upon or realized, maybe not lucked, it kind of like, I like fishing, and people are like, you're really good at it, you should do it as a living. And you're like, should I? Is this a thing? And then they became a pro. There are now generations of anglers from college series wired to pursue this for a living, and they're not going to take no for an answer, and they're going to do their best, and they're going to work hard. And so, like you said, everybody under the age of 30, except for Ben Milliken, qualifying for the elites. Absolutely crazy. We've got Logan Parks from Auburn, Wesley Gores from Montevallo, John Garrett from Bethel. That's 3 great college fishing schools. Then you got JT Tompkins, who bypassed college. You have Tyler Williams from Maine, Kyle Patrick from the Northeast as well. Then you've got Ben Milliken from Nebraska, but lives in Texas. There's so many people, and I feel like Robert G. from the University of Tennessee, I forgot him with the college guys. He was in the points race up at the top. Trey McKinney being 18 years old, not even having a chance to apply for college, and he's making the elite series. So there are so many young anglers that are serious about this. They're not up a spot and wasting it. They want to do this for a living. And so they are figuring out a way to make this sustainable. I think we're already seeing new ideas get ingested to not only the sponsor game, how to sell out. You don't fish 10 weeks a year and become a pro. You work 42 weeks a year and you fish 10 weeks to pro. So a lot of these kids are trying to put in that work 42 weeks a year when they're not fishing. So kudos to them. I'm excited about that. And it's a renewed hope that we can commingle old, young. Greg Hackney's still going to get his. Jason Christie's still going to get his. Brandon Pollock's old now. He's still going to get his. So Ike's still going to get his. So I think it's good. This is what we've prayed for and asked for, and now we have a meshing of it with the youngest field ever to qualify for the Elite Series.
That's it's fantastic, and I competed against these guys on the Open, so I saw their capabilities and being able to adjust to difficult conditions when things are going south, and that's really the measure of talent, really. And some, I just want to highlight some things. I interviewed JT Tompkins right here, 700 hours on his outboard this year, which is just mind numbing. Spend like 340 days on the water. I don't know how many, but just and earn that AOY. Except for the fact that he beat me, I like him a lot. On Chesapeake. Tyler Williams, love him. Had him, just great personality. Just seems like a natural understanding of how fish move. After talking with him, really like him a lot. Kyle Patrick is special, I think, because Kyle worked full time this year and will only practiced on the official practice periods for the tournaments, which man, that's a tremendous accomplishment.
Which I'll say when we changed the Opens format of practice and having the off limits period, you couldn't just go from one Open to the next Open to fish. There was an off limits until right before. I was worried about Kyle, and I'll say it to him on the phone. I'll say it, he was one who would go from tournament to tournament and practice for a week or two before the tournament starts. And to see him walk that back and to only practice on official days is very encouraging for his longevity in the sport, because you could practice for 2 weeks, but you only get three days for the Elite Series. And so as long as you might fish for 3 weeks out of a tournament for 10 years, but now you know enough where you're confident and comfortable with 3 days. That's all it's just getting to the point of comfortability to where you have limited practice. I'm okay going into tournament with 2 or 3 bites doing this one thing and 2 or 3 bites doing this other thing, and I'll make it work. A lot of guys want secure, guaranteed things, and that's just not going to happen in the sport. So having a having limited practice, but being okay with that is huge. And so kudos to Kyle. I've had a lot of, I'll say this as my chair is going down. Hold on, let me scoot this thing up. There we go. As I think, I'm trying to think of who it was. Joey Cifuentes, Dan Gaston, and there was one more from our rookie class this past season. Were on my phone talking to me once a week, asking questions. I text every single qualifier of the Elite Series and say, congratulations. This is Ronnie Moore, Bass Live. If we haven't spoke, here's my number. If you have any questions or need help, you don't know who to ask, I'll get you to the right person or I'll help. And those 2 or 3 guys took me up on it last year and talked to me frequently just to make sure they were doing the right thing. We're already seeing 2 or 3 people from the Opens this year do the same thing. And Kyle's one of those, one of the hardworking people. I think it's easy to say now when you look at John Cruz, who's a friend of the show, if he partners with anybody with Missile, you can already check the box. They're a hard worker. You could just tell. He's only going to accept that kind of character. See Kyle from the Opens ranks take it seriously to now his dreams come true and he doesn't have to start being a hard worker. He was already a hard worker. I think that's going to bode well for him when the times are tough.
Yes, and he has the best social media videos out there.
No doubt about it. I'll also mention a little plug. Sorry, Shane plug for the Bassmaster podcast. I get to talk to the 17-year-old kid, Aaron Yavorsky, who's going to the Bassmaster Classic, youngest angler ever. We get to talk to him today on the podcast, and hopefully he's a great guest, and we get to introduce this young, wet behind the ears pro or a kid that hopes to be a pro. And at minimum, I'm going to encourage him to soak it in that he gets to do something no one else has ever done and to get to be the youngest angler to ever fish the Classic. Preteens are going to only be able to take away from you at this point.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And my final thought, 2-time Classic champ is coming back to the elites.
That's right. We buried the lead for the last minute of the show. Thanks for who's hanging around.
Jay Lee, man, the natural, the gifted angler that just finds his way into the winner's circle no matter what he does. Man, is he going to make that field even tougher now?
Yeah, I think someone posed the question to me on Twitter and says, what are the odds that Jordan wins an elite event his first year back? And I'm like, well, I'm not being rude. He's never won an elite event. He's won classics and he's won events. He never has won. He's been so close, but we think, we just remember growing up with the kid, from the college series when I competed against him and you see him represent the college series. He storms in, has the best college finish of best classic finish of a college angler with 6th at Gunnersville. And then he goes and wins 2 classics. Think about it. He only had 4 years on the Elite Series. So he won 2 classics in the 4 years he was on the Elite Series.
Insane.
So I can't wait to see now that he's almost a full time away, like 4 years on the Elite Series, 5 years with the BPT, and back on the Elite Series.
He's all grown up.
What he's progressed. Like his bones probably like mine in the morning now. We're all over 30 now. We're all over feeling it. But I want to see the level he's taking his game to, because no doubt him rolling, with Alton Jr. and the BPT and stuff like that, they caught him and they held each other to that high standard. And so to see Jordan now come back, not as the mentee, but the mentor to some people, maybe it'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, he can only win the small tournaments, with
50 voters. I know. I don't know. I'd trade a couple 100-boat wins for a couple 50-boat wins if you ask most guys,
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean,
hey, I'll ask a question from me to you guys. Riz and Pete, AOY or Classic, which one means more to you if you were to win it? If you had the chance to win one.
You go, Riz.
Classic.
Why?
Because of you get to the level 10 in that moment on the stage with the trophy and the confetti and the everything. AOY is a long build up. And I feel like a lot of times when guys win AOY at the end of the year, it's like, like it's like the weight is off, you're relieved. It's still an amazing moment, obviously, but I mean, you win the Classic, that's it. It's the Super Bowl of bass fishing, dude. Like that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm this argument's been made, and I've heard it said the AOY is like the angler's prize. The guys in the field, that's what they value the most is the AOY, and I'd certainly love that title in my cap. But man, I grew up fascinated by this sport watching the Classic. Man, it was like that was the pinnacle of the sport. Still is. You win that, you're still a household name. You're still going to be hailed as the best angler. And so with the exception of falling in, I want to win the Classic.
No doubt about it. I always get asked that question. I feel like it's the Classic as well. I've never seen someone hold a Classic or hold an AOY trophy above their head like they do a Classic trophy. It is absolutely the coolest moment in the sport of fishing. I always paint this picture. I cry every single time. I'm over here. My job for the Classic is determined is I have to go grab the first place and the second place wife and stand backstage so that one is ready to run on stage and the other one is ready to grieve with their husband. That's the worst but coolest moment to experience. And that moment when a guy grabs his bag and walks on stage and there's a leader waiting to greet him, you put the bag on stage on the scales, and between those two guys, someone in about 5 seconds is about to win the Classic. And then it happens, and the emotion, the cheer, the trophy hold, the confetti, you're a legend forever. You're a legend for the AOY as well. But in that moment, like you said, Riz, that is an MA going on in my pocket. It is just an explosion that I can't replicate anywhere. I'm wanting to burst from the seams. And then obviously my tears knowing that their life has changed forever. And I pray that they feel this honor and it doesn't ever wear off, that they just won the Classic. That's super cool.
Yeah. To you, and that's an awesome summation, Ronnie. And to your point, Riz, it seems like when you win the AOY, it's almost like a relief. Like, oh, I can let this burden down I've been carrying for the last, especially the last 3 or 4 tournaments. The pressure has been on you the whole time, and you're like, oh, it's over. I got it. It's over. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Because believe me, when you're, at night, when you put your head on the pillow, you're probably thinking that AOY, that was a pretty awesome accomplishment, and very few will ever get to do that. And the fishermen, I think, know that that's probably the much harder thing to do. But yeah, the Classic's pretty cool. Ronnie, we've gone long, man. I appreciate the time hanging out with us always. I love our annual, show that we do here when you come on and talk about all this stuff. It's awesome. I'm very excited about this year's tournaments. Can't wait to watch it on Bass Live. And thanks so much, man.
Yeah, and the last thing as I head out the door is we will be starting, I believe, the Opens live prior to Bass Live for the Elite Series. We will have all 9 Opens live on the final day. So I think Okeechobee is the first one, and I think that's early February. And then we'll go Ouachita and Santee Cooper, and it'll be great there as well. So excited to bring that platform to the Opens anglers on a full-time basis. That's the whole goal that Hank Weldon is doing, is making the Opens a route where you can make a living. They've got $110,000 worth of AOY money put in for the top 10. The relief that'll bring if you win AOY, that you've obviously had a great year, but that 45,000 kick is boom. I don't have to worry about my next year. Everything I pocketed the season is for me. This one check is for my entries, and we're good to go. So we're just do that. I'm excited for the Opens and the field that's going to be served up there, because like we said, that's the ultimate mashup of difficulty.
Yeah, and it's you're watching next year's anglers, right? Next year's superstars. I'm so excited that you're covering that, and you guys are invested in that. That's awesome, man. I applaud you guys for that. Look forward to watching. Man, thanks again. Have a great holiday, buddy. Tell everybody over at Bass we miss them. Wish them Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you. We'll see you on the television.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, and we will see you in person at the Classic, and some other Bass staff will see Riz prior to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great, Ronnie Moore. Everybody, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it. What an amazing man. We covered it all. You know, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting combination of spots. Florida strain, Texas in the early season. They're letting them go to the lake out of Waddington.
Yep.
That's
Long run.
Man, that's going to add a lot to it. Guys, man, what an amazing conversation. Loved it. Hope you guys did too. Appreciate you guys being with us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Like and share the feed. We're going to be giving away some awesome Cortland fishing line. If you haven't tried the Master Braid, you got to go do it. But you might be winning some right now. And we're going to have a grand prize. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and give away some stuff.
Aquaview, the leader in underwater viewing technology. Find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. Aquaview. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love casting fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick, every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worman series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water, not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Cortland Line Master Braid, America's premium super braided fishing line. Manufactured in our Cortland, New York facility and constructed from the highest quality Spectra fibers available. Cortland Line Company, made in America since 1915.
I have to have the best eyewear.
My eyes are essential to doing my job.
It's the highest quality lens that I've ever used.
Top of the line performance in these glasses.
But they're priced for absolutely everyone. The everyday angler can afford them.
As a touring professional pro, if I can depend on them, I know the weekend angler can as well. Hobie eyewear, built for the pros.
Price for everyone.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks to Ronnie Moore for an amazing recap or pre-cap, I guess you would call it, to the upcoming Elite Series preview. Really, really good insight, amazing insight, and great stuff. He works so hard, you can hear it in him being able to recount so many different tournaments and anglers and everything involved. So it's awesome stuff. We had. Did you put the question out there yet?
The grand prize question is now in the chat, and the question is, who was Ronnie's pick to win the Bassmaster Classic this year?
2024.
He named a couple names, but the main guy, he said,
first one.
The first
gotta
one
be
he said.
correct spelling too. Got to be correct spelling. Oh,
yes.
Man. Looks like Dan Allen.
Are you kidding me?
Dan Allen, after a few weeks off, got back in the mix.
Chad Thomas was on
man.
it, but
good job, Dan.
He spelled Matt Airy wrong. Matt Airy is the correct answer.
Bass University instructor.
That's right.
Congratulations again, Dan. I guess we're going to start seeing the Bass University swag store on eBay.
Yeah.
Courtesy of Dan Allen. That's awesome. It's funny. I was on Smallmouth Crush last week, and
he wins on their show too.
Yeah, well, Epic Eric was wearing his Bass University hat that he won on Bass U Live.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah, that was very cool.
We gotta get Eric back in the chat and give Dan Allen some
competition. I know Dan's too tough, man.
All right, and our like and share winner is Randall Beauchamp.
Hey, Randall Beauchamp.
Thank you,
man.
Thank you, Randall. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and appreciate you guys being part of Bass University. Check out the great deals. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. Get over to bassu.tv and get signed up.
Get a Secret Santa box, man. You don't know what you're getting, but it's going to be good stuff.
You might get the Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Might get the gold ticket.
$250 box. That's cool.
Yeah.
Psyched that we're going to be handing one of those out to one of our subscribers. So we're gonna hook you guys up and get to class, guys. It's a lot of fun. It's an experience you will never forget. Get to a Bass University live event. The tickets are for sale at thebassuniversity.com. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing everybody right back here next Tuesday on Bass U Live.
Yep. Before we sign off, Pete, we got the sub of the week.
Thank you for that.
Yep. Shout out to Justin Jones rocking the Bass U hat with a Florida Stream bass.
Love that.
Captain Justin Jones. What's up?
The Florida's going to be big on the elite schedule this year. Going to be seeing a lot of those Florida strains come in. And appreciate all the subscribers at Bass U. If you want to be featured as a subscriber on our Bass University Live program, because I always seem to forget that we're going to do it.
Got you, Pete. Don't worry.
Where do they send their pics?
Send your pics over to me on social, whatever it is, Facebook, Instagram. Send them. Shoot me a DM and
shoot. At the Bass University.
At the Bass University, and throw on your Bass U t-shirt, your Bass U hat, and you'll be the sub of the week.
Sub of the week. The star of the week. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see everybody right here next week. Have a great day.